Welcome to this new episode of the Coach Me to Lead podcast and the LinkedIn Live show. I have Christopher Downing as our guest here. Welcome, Christopher.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Or Coach Chris, as you say at the bottom now. What intrigued me right away, and obviously that was one of the reasons why you put it down in your bio, was that you have not been on social media since 2016. Before we go there, we will just share a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a writer first, and I started writing a long time ago. And at one point, I figured out that I can share the things that I've learned along my own writing journey. And I wrote a few books about how to write, how to dictate. And once I put those out into the world, people started emailing me, asking me questions if I could help them and support them. And the coaching just sort of organically grew out of that. And luckily, I found the Coachdotme platform and found out how easy it was to get something started. And sure enough, clients started coming, and here we are.
And I saw your books. What I normally do when I prepare, I just go to LinkedIn, I look up for the websites, and of course, all of that was not available for you. I had to go to Amazon to find you there a bit on Goodreads and so on. That's where I found most of the information about what you do. But you wrote a couple of books, and the one I think this is foolproof dictation, foolproof outline. That's the ones that help people to do the things that you do on a good way, right?
Right, that's right.
And I was so, because also your coaching patch is about this dictation. I didn't know what is this dictation part? How does this work?
Well, with coaching, it's just helping people cross over into dictation. Have you ever tried dictation yourself?
I purchased at some point Dragon. What's it called?
Yeah, some point.
Dragon something. I thought I had the box, but I think I threw it away sometime. And it didn't work for me. It's been a couple of years, let's say 10 years ago that I bought that package, but it didn't work for me. And maybe probably now it's a lot better, but I don't use it. I write, I type.
Sure. Well, for those people who do want to try out dictation, most people struggle with it, but they struggle with it for a variety of reasons. So I help people overcome, there's a lot of fears and resistances. We tend to go to the path of least resistance, which is typing for most people. So if you struggle with a new skill set, you tend to abandon it and go to what you're used to. But if you want to stay at it, sometimes it's just a matter of not quitting, right? So having someone to hold your hand, give you advice as you go through it, and you develop the skill, and eventually it becomes a part of your skill set, and so it's one more tool that you can use. So, but it's hard for everybody, so it doesn't surprise me that you struggled with it too.
Did you? And now, do you still write, or is the only thing that you do is dictation?
Depends on my mood, really. It's like I say, it's just one more tool in my toolbox. So if I want to type that day, then I type. If I dictate because I want to write quickly, or it's just I'm in the mood to speak quickly, then I'll use that.
Do you also still write with paper and pencil or pen?
Yeah, a lot of notes. I enjoy pen and paper. I enjoy the slow pace of that. It's really good for brainstorming. So I like all sorts of things, really.
Yeah, I write like well, not 3 pages in the morning, like the morning pages, like you should, but I write 1 page in the morning and in my journal most of the days. And I like, just writing by hand. And I think also it gives you, I read like research about this. It gives you the opportunity when it's a connection between the hand and the brain to organize what you think, right? So to structure your thinking. And I like that part about writing instead of just having everything in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Mm-hmm.
and I understand that dictation is a tool, but how do you see that with dictation? How could you use that?
It is a lot about how our brain organizes things. You said it's a connection with your brain to your hands, to the pen and the paper. Just like when you're having a conversation, the parts of your brain that we're using right now to have this conversation, whether it's sentence structure or the vocabulary we use during conversations, those neural pathways exist to your mouth, right? When you're writing blogs or something else, or whatever else you're used to typing, well, those neural connections are connected to your fingers and the patterns that you use to type on a keyboard. So when you're switching over to writing by dictation, which is different than having a conversation, you need to establish those connections. So the things that how we think about the world, the abstract ways that we think about the worlds, and the way we structure things and how we look at them, it's already in our brain. It's just a matter of connecting those neural pathways to our output, right? So if you're used to using a pen and paper and thinking about those things, then those connections are already there. When you're learning to write by dictation, you need to establish those neural pathways to connect those ideas. Everything from our writing, we speak in like what I'm doing right now. I would never type this way, right? But I talk this way, and it makes sense to you. But if I were to dictate that directly on the page, it would look a mess. So things like the sentence structures that we use, the type of words that we use when we're typing, for instance, a blog, are very different than these conversations. So it's just a matter of taking those connections and connecting them to our brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's practice too, to establish those pathways.
I think the difficulty for when I started using it was that the language, because most of the things I write are in Dutch, and that was not very well supported at that time. And I tried, of course, English, but then I have to work double. I have to learn dictation and I have to learn to write in English, which was also not my nature. So I think that complicated everything. Do you think that has the dictation part improved and how the last couple of years?
Leaps and bounds. Yeah. I mean, no offense to Dragon or any other software out there, but right now, my onboard, I use an Apple. I use the cheap iPhone, right? The iPhone SE. It's the cheap one. Its dictation that just comes naturally on it is now superior than anything Dragon had 4 years ago. So I'm a big fan of not spending money. So right now, what I use is the free dictation that's just on my iPhone, and it's fantastic. I get the whole language thing, that one more hurdle, right? Anything that undermines our self-confidence is going to have an effect on our voice, right? So if we're dictating or typing, typing being part of our voice, anything that's undermines our self-confidence, like I said, is makes things difficult for sure. Yeah. I'll tell you what. One of the things that I work with the dictation, people come to me and they want to learn dictation, and I ask them, well, where are your struggles at? And for some people, they can't think of what to say. They turn on the microphone and suddenly it's just right. It's like they're just blank, and it's like they're swimming through mud. And why is that, right? And so people come to me for dictation, but more often than not, we end up talking about their creative voice, right? Why is their creative voice constricted? Why is their creativity? Why do they struggle to get the words out? And so, yes, you came to me to talk about dictation, but in reality, we talk about your creative voice and the confidence, your sense of identity, all the things that go into you trying to put your creativity out into the world, right? So we find out that a lot of people struggle with self-confidence, even with the typing, right? But they manage to get through it. They can still type, right? But when they're faced with dictating, suddenly it's right in front of them and they're like, oh, I don't have what it takes to do this. And that lack of self-confidence is just like getting your knees knocked out from under you. So we talked about that. And for some people, we go as far back as to their creative spark, which leads to your voice, right? So I kind of work in a paradigm of first you have your purpose, and then you have your creative spark, right? The drive to create things in the world. I want to do things. I want to write a book. I want to garden. I want to coach. I want to build a career. I want to have a family, right? That creative spark. And it's from the creative spark that we have our voice, right? We use our voice to put our creative spark out into the world. And I'm using voice, loosely, whether you're gardening or building a family, you're using your creative voice. It's how you get your spark out into the world. So whether it's your purpose, your spark, or your voice, somewhere along the line, one of those three things can be struggling. And so if you're struggling with writing or doing the things that you want to do in life, sometimes you can it's one of those things. It's your confidence from your voice, your ability to put things out into the world, or the stresses of life might have diminished your spark, right? So you have a skill set, right? You can write. I know that there's things to be written, but I just don't have the drive, right? I have trouble coming up with ideas. And so sometimes it's just the spark. And so we'll start talking about, why is your creative spark so diminished? Why do you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning? And then sometimes we go as far back as talking about your purpose. Why are we doing this in the first place? And somewhere along the line, we can identify where the kink in the hose is, right? And then we start working on that. And then several months down the line, people are like, oh yeah, we were supposed to talk about dictation. And then once we have that figured out, then we can start talking about, great, let's start fine-tuning the tools that we're using for our creative voice to get out into the world. Sorry, I got a little long-winded on that. But like I said, most people come to me for like accountability with their writing or the dictation. And we end up talking about why their creative voice is stifled, or why their spark has gone, why it's not burning anymore like it used to. I don't have the drive anymore. So.
And you have a beautiful niche on your coaching. I really love it that you have this niche and it's so carved out and so clear. Do you see yourself like more like a coach today than an author, or how do you see, where's the balance for you?
That's a great question. I've always wanted to be just a writer that could support myself with my writing. All right, I'll just admit that. I'll admit that to you only. Don't tell anybody. The coaching came of it. Am I an artist or am I a healer? Right. And I've always wanted to be the artist. Right. But I find that I am successful helping people heal with their struggles, right? Whether they're self-confidence or identity problems or, whatever it may be. So great question. I'm still figuring that out myself. When my coaching business started to blow up, right? Suddenly you start making money and you're feeling successful. The clients are lining up and you're like, well, cool, this is it. And then a couple years down the road, you're like, well, I kind of miss being creative myself. And I find myself hearing my own words to my clients and saying like, well, I should probably listen to some of these things. They're good advice. So, it's so funny you should mention it. Over the last couple of months, I've really revved up my writing career again and working on some projects that I want to get out there. Yeah.
Do you feel that for you, or maybe in general, that the amount of money that you're making from it is a part of that discussion or thinking process about, are you a writer or are you a coach?
Well, I like to pay the bills. I have a family to support. Money is energy, right? And energy can be both light and dark, good or bad. So, as long as we have smart boundaries around money and how we think about money, which has taken me a while. I used to think money was the evil of all things. And once I had a family and realized that I kind of need to start making this money from my endeavors, it's kind of important. I get it. So for me, the creative part, right now, I'm creating from the heart. That's very important. Encourage everyone to create from your own authentic spark, right? If you're doing things for the wrong reasons, then your spark, you're doing things based on the shoulds, right? You should do this, you should do that. In order to be successful, you should publish on Medium this many times a month, that sort of thing. Then you're doing things based on the shoulds instead of your spark or your purpose. And so you can do it for a while, but the burnout will come because the resistance is, at some point, your creative spark will say, I'm not going to do this anymore because it's not for the right reasons. You're doing it because of what people are telling you should be doing, and not because you're not doing it from the heart. So as I'm reinventing my own writing and the things that I want to write about, I'm making sure that they're coming from the heart. Luckily, I have the coaching thing to fall back on as my day job, so that I can figure out what I want to create and then hopefully find a way to market it when the time comes.
Right. Okay, I love what you just said, and because I think that's a very good reasoning. And I also want to ask the question again, but rephrase it this time.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm also interested in this part. And so let's say that from your writing, you will earn enough money, plenty money that you could just live off. And so your writing becomes a huge success. Let's put it that way. Do you think you will still be coaching?
Yes. Yeah. I sobered up from alcohol about 12 years ago. And one of the things that was really beneficial from that was helping people who were also trying to sober up, right? So no matter how good I think I've got it with my sobriety, helping other people who are still struggling really locks in for me why I need to stay sober. So the same thing with writing. There's nothing more joyful for me than working with somebody on their first novel and watching them make it, right, and create it. And some of the advice and things that I help teach them with, or like I said earlier, it's a reminder for me of the things that I should be doing and the things that I should still be focused on. If I was to have my own successes, I probably would forget some of those things unless I had a coach. So yeah, helping people who are struggling is a part of my personal growth, and I can't deny that.
See, I'm happy I'm asked this question.
Twice.
Well, I think I was looking for this idea that, but I like the first answer too, because the whole idea was just how this happened for you. And the second one is what maybe may happen. And I like the idea that you still want to keep coaching because of the helping part that you've learned because of the coaching, right? So I like that process. The coaching on Coachdotme is in general built upon habits, right? So what kind of things you do daily to get into this habit of doing things. In your case, it's becoming better in writing, but also becoming better in dictation. What are some simple habits that you start with your clients?
Removing some of the bad habits is the first one. Well, oh gosh, so many different angles on that one. I find, so that creative spark that we were talking about, right? So you sit down to do whatever it is you're going to do, whether you're a writer or you're a gardener. And we live in this modern world where the stresses of life are immense, right? And I have this theory that stress is the destroyer of all things. There is nothing good ever comes from stress, right? Maybe a little bit of anxiousness gets us going, right? I think that's a part of being a human being, is an anxiousness, right? This sense of lack that we were born with that causes us to move forward. But when things get stressful, right, suddenly the stresses, they activate our critical voice, right? Something's wrong, right? There's something wrong out there in the world. And so our critical voice, which is there to help us, to protect us, to find solutions, to problem solve, it comes on board and says, oh, let's find things to fix. What's wrong? Things are wrong, right? Your creative voice is the thing that you should be living your life with, right? You should be using your creative voice to build your families and your careers and your writing career and all of that stuff, your books. But if critical voice is activated, then suddenly, and it does a good job, by the way, of problem solving. So we tend to rely so much on our critical voice to problem solve, to create safety nets. We should be doing this. We let the creative critical voice loves shoulds, right? It loves self-help books. It loves the things, tell me what to do. So when you sit down to your practice, whatever it may be, you can either listen to your critical voice or you can listen to your creative voice. Okay, good habits, right? So oftentimes we talk about what are the good habits that you could, your morning routine, right? When you start your morning, do you go to social media first? I promise you, if you go to social media first, critical voice is going to say, hello, good morning, I'm here too, because it's a world of, right? It's the things that are wrong with the world. You should be participating in it. And it's, of course, social media is engineered to make you want to participate. Or are you tending yourself? Are you maybe doing some like morning pages like you said? Are you going for a walk? Are you having a calm, peaceful morning? So I encourage my clients to think of what are the good habits that activate your creative voice, right? And what are the bad habits that activate critical voice? So you have to be really intentional about the things that you choose. If you choose things that activate critical voice, it's difficult to make that voice go away. So good habits can be, really personality based, but a nice morning hygiene routine is nice. Sitting in peacefully with your favorite morning beverage, listening to your favorite music. Morning pages is a great one, like you said, or anything, a long walk. Those are things that slowly bring you into the world creatively, right? So to answer your question directly, I encourage people to develop their own good habits based on activating their creative voice instead of their critical voice.
Wow, nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's very thoughtful, and I think it's great thinking. And obviously, it's logical to not go on social media, but the whole explanation about the creative voice, I like that a lot, and I haven't thought about it in that way. Is that the reason why you left social media?
I left social media because of the United States presidential election in 2016. I don't know if that for me, that was the epitome of how gross. It doesn't matter whether you're a conservative or a liberal. It was disgusting. It was just gross. I would see my own friends behaving in ways. I would be lured into behaving certain ways online, and it's all crap. None of it's real. None of it's authentic. We think it is. It's this false reality. And for that reason, I set it aside. I was like, I just don't want to participate in any of those political conversations anymore. And once I did that, just like leaving alcohol behind, it was a matter of weeks before I started to realize, oh my goodness, there's a lot more benefits to leaving it behind than not. So,
Wow.
The tricky thing is we live in a world of online content, right? And online content includes our blogging, our marketing, right? When I tell people that I'm a writer or a coach and I don't do any online marketing, it blows their mind. How can you possibly succeed in this world without that? Because isn't that how we're supposed to succeed, right? That's what we've been told, or that's what we've been telling ourselves, right? But it's not. There are ways to succeed. It's a different angle. It might be a little old school. I don't know. But it sure relieves me of the stresses that interfere with my spark. And that's the most important thing.
I completely see that. And I wonder about a couple of things. So, okay, no social media, I get that. I'm down to just LinkedIn at the moment. That's it. Well, WhatsApp, I don't count that as, I see that as a
Right.
communication channel, not a, a social media, but still it can be very distracting, but it's important to me. But I love, most of the, I think the way I saw it, the most poisonous one, like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I think LinkedIn is less likely to draw me in and just, draw me in all kind of very nasty conversations.
Right.
And but no website, so no domain, no place where people can find you that is your own. Why and how do you do that?
Well, first of all, the Coachdotme platform, I consider my landing page for the most part, right? Like it's fantastic. People, I have that referral link. People click on it and it takes them to my coaching profile. And there's a picture of me with a small bio and within my package descriptions, people can get, oh, there it is. I just did that picture. I'm not really sure it's the best one.
That's okay.
But
that's okay. I'm gonna just go to the package. Here you go.
Yeah, people can pick that apart if they want to, but yeah. Anyway, they can get enough of a feel for me. So in a sense, it is a landing page. So to say that I operate without a landing page wouldn't be truthful. This is my landing page, and it's pretty. I mean, like I've got the referrals or the testimonies are right there. A couple of years ago on Coach, there was a big movement to really refine your how many packages you offer, right? So instead of offering like 15 packages to try to cast a wide net, specialize, go niche, and I think that is the way to go. Is to not try to catch everybody, but to specialize. Yeah. And yeah, I think everyone can get what they need to know. On the book writing side, I think that's also blows people's mind. But I'd ask you, the last time you bought a fiction book, not nonfiction, but you went to go buy a fiction book, how many times do you go to the author's website before you buy the book? Probably never, right? So it just seems to be a waste of time and energy. And I used to have a website, and good Lord, it would suck my time away from me trying to get the formatting right. And and there was no benefit from it. We're told that we're supposed to have an online presence, but I haven't noticed a difference.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think this was important for me to see your thinking on this. And let's say, for example, you're very dependent on Coachdotme with your landing page there. So let's say Coachdotme just goes under and they're gone. What do you think we would do then?
Panic for a couple weeks. Luck and a little bit of skill. I've created a 100% word of mouth business. So all of my clients are referral. When I first started out with Coach, I did use Google ads. I would spend about $200 a month on Google ads. And I would just have my referral link with, some copy, and people would click on it, and I would get about a new client every month or two. It was still a trickle, right? But I would do my best to keep those clients for a long-term basis. And eventually I was able to turn those Google ads off and rely completely on a word of mouth business. So every client I get is someone who's been told, you should go talk to Coach Chris. And that to me is insanely powerful. It really makes me do a good job, right? So since I'm relying on every single one of my clients to go tell somebody without me telling them to go tell somebody, right? That's the also trick. You don't want to have to do that. A couple other things that I do is I offer a free month to all of my clients if they refer somebody who sticks, right? And so my package is $150 a month. So if Tony decides, brings in Sandra, right? I'm going to give Tony a free month.
Wow.
Is it worth it? Do I lose $150? Is it worth it? Absolutely, because Sandra's going to stick around for 4 to 8 months, knock on wood, right? And Sandra is going to tell somebody. So by giving away $150, and it happens once, right? It's not like I'm giving a bunch of free stuff all the time to the same people over and over. But by doing that, it does encourage them to tell a friend. And to say that I succeed without online presence is also a little bit of a falsehood, because I rely on other people's online presences to talk about, right? So I am paying for marketing. I am paying Tony $150, right, to go spread the word, and he does it, and I'm grateful for that, right? So I'm still paying for marketing, but I'm doing it by creating a word of mouth situation. Works really well. And luckily I've landed in a couple of writer communities who are writers are very vocal people. My goodness, they have lots of opinions and they love sharing their opinions. So that's lucky. So they talk. Everyone's complaining about everything. It's, maybe you should go talk to Coach Chris and maybe he can help you with your spark or help you with dictation. And then they show up, and I do my one package you see there it's $30 for 2 weeks, right? It's just this is yeah. In fact, I don't even have my full package on there. It's just a trial, right? It's $30, $30 for 2 weeks. And so that gives me 2 weeks. I got 2 weeks with that person, and I need to I need to give them a couple of good wins, right? I need to prove that we're going to succeed together. And, I would say 80%, I've never done the math, but more than 75% stick around for a couple of months, and that ends up paying for itself for sure.
How many new clients did you get in a month about?
1 or 2.
Beautiful. I think I have to use the right words. I love this strategy because you completely build on quality instead of quantity. Mm-hmm. You are very respectful with your own time, right? So you respect your own time and say, I want to use it as good as I can, because you are a full-time dad. You want to write. So you don't want to spend time, hanging around on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on whatever platform and joining all these conversations, or even building your own website and being frustrated about how to build this and how to keep it alive. I think that's really smart. And of course, not everybody can do it. I think you have a perfect niche where this is possible. But also, I also think it is possible in a lot of situations to set up your business in this way. If you are confident enough about your own quality and have patience in what's going to happen, right? So you have to have trust that people refer you with new clients, and that you are doing a great job that they are willing to refer. So you are confident and you trust in yourself and in the process. And I think that's really a really good way to do this. So I mentioned the 2 nonfiction books like Proof Dictation and Foolproof Outline. Sorry, Foolproof Dictation, Foolproof Outline. But you mainly write fiction, if I'm correct, right?
Right. Yeah.
What is your next book what's the next project you're working on? What can you share?
Yeah. Gosh. So let's see, which one should we talk about? There's 2 books. 2 books that I'm working on now. So let's see, check the tag. We got 30 minutes. Great. And I'll see if I can fill it up with just that. Let me just say that what I've left behind is writing romance. most of my clients, not all of them, but a large percentage of them are romance writers, right? But English speaking romance writers. It's a very prolific bunch of writers, and you have to be prolific in that business in order to succeed. So, hence a lot of people want to learn dictation, and I love romance, right? It's a great genre because there's a happily ever after, right? During the pandemic and these stressful times, I don't like darkness. I don't like the dark stuff. I like to know that there's a happily ever after. So I enjoyed participating with. I loved writing the romance. But something happened over this last 2 months where I realized that while I enjoyed it, it was fine. I wasn't writing from my own creative spark. Right? This is one of those times where I was coaching people on this thing and I was listening to my own words and I'm like, that's really good advice. Maybe I should start writing from my own creative spark. Sounds really important. So while I've enjoyed writing romance, and that's where the money is, I was writing other people's fantasies, not erotic fantasies, but just the fantasies of, being protected or being saved or saving other people, whatever that looked like, whatever those particular, Beauty and the Beast fantasies are. I was writing other people's universal fantasies, not my own. And so I decided I need to leave that behind and find out what I really want to write. And within about 60 seconds, my spark was like, there's like 4 or 5 projects you've been shelving that are really important to you. Maybe you should have a look at. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. So just real quick now to drag out this answer more. One of them is the Gospel according to Joseph. So it's going to be a story of Joseph and Jesus when he was 11 years old. So the Gospel, the New Testament, really begins when Jesus was 12. That's when we first learn about him. So I was just very curious about the role of Joseph, right, stepdad. What was the role of the stepdad in Jesus's life up until that point? So it's a story, the Gospel according to Joseph. It's a month in the life of Joseph and Jesus, and what that relationship must have looked like, and what things Jesus might have learned from his stepdad, which was probably a very, very important figure in his life, but we don't know much about it. So there's going to be a lot of fictionalization, but for me, it's a chance to really dive deep on fatherhood and what it means to raise a family that must have felt like a circus at the time, and what his role, what type of advice, what type of conversations did they have with this young man? My son right now is 11. Might be a coincidence. I don't know. So for me, it's really an exploration of fatherhood and enduring, right? So it's real. So there we go. And now you can hear I'm talking from the heart, right? These are things that are really important for me.
Wow.
The other project is a book called Man, which is a story of a young man set in prehistoric times, roughly around 30,000 BC, who is using his masculinity to survive a brutal world. And for me, this is a little bit of a pendulum swing against the theory that masculinity should be suppressed and weak. And I feel like a lot of young men in the world are being told that all masculinity is toxic. And I think having another voice out there to show that no, masculinity is also really this amazing, powerful thing that has helped our species survive for thousands upon thousands of years. And so it's a book about that. Once again, these are things that you can tell I'm getting excited about it, right? Because it's my spark, right? These are the things I really want to write about. I don't know if it'll be successful or not, but sure makes me feel good to even talk about it. So thanks for asking.
Oh man, I can see the books in front of me. I'm not a fiction reader at all. I have I think 2 fiction books, which are from nonfiction writers. So I like parables though. So I also like that. But in general, I just read nonfiction. I read things where I can learn something about, and I think that was what I just got from you was the books you're writing is nonfiction, but it's also something to learn, right? So something to learn about, fatherhood, or what can you give your children, and what can they learn from you? and also masculinity, which you just mentioned. So yeah, hopefully you will finish those books soon and share it with the world. That's going to be.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, I can hear the book. I can see it in front of me. I can imagine the book, how this would, what this will be about, and what an interesting story it's going to be, and something I can be wondering about. So what's going on there? Wow. How do you come up with these topics? So that's just wonderful.
Thanks, John.
I want to just make sure that people see, because I just showed you as a viewer on LinkedIn or watching this video, the packages of you, and so this is the page, and if you use this one, the QR code, you could just direct it to his page, and you can see the package there, and you can just order the package and you start with his first 2 weeks with it for the $30, I think, which is an amazing deal, and get to know Chris about his coaching, especially when you're an author and you lost your creative spirit, and even if you're an author and you want to learn about dictation, which could be interesting for me even as well, right? So that's interesting. What else? I think I've asked the most important questions I had for you today, because that was something I really, really wanted to learn, how you do this and how this came about, and how you build up your career and make the combination of coaching and writing and being a dad, which to me, everything sounds amazing, how you've just organized it. And I can imagine, of course, this all came with struggles and doubts and everything, because I'm a dad and I did the same thing. Even though I'm not an author, but I'm also a coach right now. But how it all came to place, it sounds just like something very wonderful and thought through and very interesting. So thank you for sharing that with us, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So for you, the viewers today, this post will also be on blog.Coachdotme. I will have the audio and the video there by next Monday. And like I always say, we look forward to see you again next Friday at the same time. We start at 9 a.m. Central or 4 p.m. Central European time. And thank you, Chris, for joining us today and sharing your insights with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. This has been a blast.